Hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And since it's wedding season, I guess it is appropriate that I talk about it, despite the fact that I actually did not want to talk about it, like many things that I end up talking about, despite the fact that I never want to talk about them. And also the fact that as soon as I begin my podcast, that is when everybody around me decides to start talking and making noise. But let's just begin. In any case, now it being wedding season, um, and my own family having gone through an emergency short notice. Yeah, I call it an emergency, but actually it's a short notice wedding. And I'll tell you my feelings about everything, and I'll also tell you what we did and, why I think maybe it might be helpful to share it with everybody else. As you know, nowadays there's this trend of over the top weddings, but at the same time, thankfully, there is this new trend that is starting. Although I thought we were the only ones doing it, to be very honest. And even when people were listening to us as we were doing it, people were constantly congratulating us and saying that you're amazing. And we wish that you could set this trend, and we wish that people could start doing like this more and more. But then I found out from a few other people that they were also doing more or less the same. So it seems that there are a lot of people with common sense and with pragmatism and with the fact that they know that financially it is now the worst decision ever to do over the top marriages. So people are now making it more and more intimate, more and more simple. Basically, we're going back to the pavilion. We're going back to zero. We're going back to our roots, which is a very good thing. Some might argue that over the top weddings are part of our culture too, but no, not essentially. The traditions, the different traditions that we have in our weddings are part of our culture, but they were never over the top. For example, let us talk about Mendi Mayo. Mendi and Mayo is essentially a Punjabi tradition, okay? Tel, Mayo Mendi. This is a Punjabi wedding tradition, and it is always done at home. And it is done with intimate gathering, which means only your closest relatives are supposed to be there. And if it's the girl's wedding, then it's basically all the women of the family, because they're the ones who have to apply the uptan or the haldi and the mendi and all that. It's a woman thing, and so it's done at home. As we know now, it's one of the most lavish, although it's actually supposed to be one of the most intimate, the most family oriented, and the most simplest of all traditions. That because you're essentially just preparing the bride, okay? You're just helping her, with her skincare, and you're helping her with beautifying herself, and you're helping her prepping basically for her wedding. That's it. That's basically just it. Okay, so then you have the barat. The Bharat is the actual wedding itself. Now, based on our Indian culture or our subcontinental culture or our pagan culture or whatever it is you like to call, but okay, even if you condense it down to Punjabi culture, but although you cannot, because as I said, it's predominant all over the subcontinent. And that is the Bharat. The Bharat is the actual wedding. And as you know, it is also a Western culture. And I guess that is why it continued to dominate all over the world, both in the East and the West, because it is essentially a culture that is predominant in both the East and the West. And that is the actual wedding itself. Another thing that is predominant throughout the East and the West, except for the Middle East and except for the northern areas of Pakistan, or wherever it is that Islam has prevailed. The wedding is usually on the girl's side. It means that the burden is on the girl's side, not in Islam. That's what I'm trying to say. This is part of our pagan ancient cultures and part of the Western cultures and everything, whatever you like to call it. It's part of all our ancient cultures, but it is not at all part of the Islamic culture. In Islam, the whole wedding, the whole caboodle is on the man. Yeah, because in Islam, the fact that you're giving your daughter is already more than enough, and the men should be thankful for it. And in fact, in Islam, the man is asked, what do you have to offer? You want her to leave her life, you want her to leave her lifestyle, you want her to leave her house in which she was born, you want her to leave her parents and her family. What have you got to offer? That is what Islam's marriage is all about. So, yeah, even if you do this Bharat thing, which, it's always on the girls thing. Unfortunately, that is still prevalent in our culture, but not again in the northern areas. As I said, in the northern areas of Pakistan, the Islamic rituals and the Islamic culture had already taken over and taken precedence over any other culture, especially in weddings. So when you go up north in Pakistan, you will see the typical Islamic style of wedding where the barat, the walima, everything is on the guy. Everything is on the guy. Okay, so back to our parts again, then you have the valima. The valima is what now because it is something that has been adopted by the Western culture and it's been adopted by most modern cultures, the valima is called the reception. In Islam, it is an essential part of your wedding. You can skip the barat, you can skip everything. You can skip the barat because in Islam, the main thing is signing your nuptials, okay? Signing your wedding. So once you have registered your wedding in Islam, you're good to go. You're married. You don't have to go through the whole wedding thing. You just have to now have a walima. And because the whole point of a walima is now the announcement of that wedding. So you see, that is why in Islam it is, very pragmatic. In Islam, all you do is you register your marriage. Okay, you get married, you register your marriage, you sign the papers, and then you have a party in which you call everybody and you announce your wedding. That's the walima. That's the reception. Okay? So that is the Islamic way of wedding. Now the problem is that for the longest time, in especially even in the villages of Punjab and everything, they did continue to follow this, where there was nothing expected from the girl's side. There was no dowry to be given from the girl. The dowry is basically from the man's side again. He has to give her money, he has to give her everything, he has to give her a house, he has to give her transport, he has to give her everything. She's not supposed to take a single thing from her house. If her parents do give her something, it is personal to her and it will be regarded as a gift for only and only her, and nobody else in her in-laws or her husband, or not even her husband, nobody is allowed to use that thing or to have access to that thing. So it has to be something personal. But in the Hindu culture, in the subcontinental Hindu culture, or maybe even in the Buddhist and the Jain culture, I'm not very sure about them, but I've seen that they have something similar. You give the dowry to the girl. Why? I'll tell you. Because in their religions, there is no concept of inheritance for a girl, remember? Like in Christianity, at least in their version of Christianity that the West has always practiced, girls do not have inheritance. And this is why in Christianity also, girls were given dowry, and here in the Hindu and Buddhist and other cultures, the girl is given the dowry. Now, in Pakistani culture, for the longest time, especially in the villages, they did not have this. But recently, after seeing how the middle class and the rich, the elite, who wanted to just show off and throw their money, they started the whole tradition all over again of giving dowry to their daughters. Because of that, the people in the villages have recently, in the recent 15-20 years, they have started this, which is very dangerous, very, very dangerous, because they cannot even afford it. So now you will find people always getting together and donating money and collecting stuff and saying, oh, we'll give them a bed set, we'll give them a washing machine, we'll give them a stove, we'll give them a this, we'll give them the girl. Why? It's against Islam, I'm sorry. And that is why I have a problem with those charity and social work outfits that always collect money in order to prepare a dowry for the girl who's getting married. She herself cannot even afford it. Just get her married the Islamic way and be done with it. In Islam, this is haram. That means that if you're preparing a dowry for the girl and if it is put to use in her house by her husband and by her family and by everybody, then that is a sin. It is a sin on the husband and his family that they're using her stuff. So, because she's not supposed to bring that stuff in the first place, it is haram. And they have to return everything. The minute they realize that it is against the code of Islam, they have to return every single thing back to the girl's family. So, why are you taking it in the first place? So, you see, the fact that we are removing Islam and bringing in our pagan and Hindu culture in is very disturbing. Now, what did we do? Yeah, let's come back to what we did. What we did was basically we did a very simple nikah, and we actually had to scramble. If you look at it at our point of view, we had to scramble because we were given this short notice to arrange the wedding. And in that short, because situation and circumstances were such that the other party wanted the wedding to be done within a certain date and time frame, I guess they were of the idea that because, they were getting their son married, they wanted to get their daughter married at the same time as well. And one can understand the situation, as I said, keeping in mind the whole situation and condition in Pakistan. I guess it just made more sense to them to have two weddings in one go. So now the thing is that if it was up to us, we would never have done it for another 2 years. That we never had it in the works, we never had it in the plans. We had nothing along the lines for 2 years. But we had to bow down to their wishes. Now, what was my first reaction, or the first reaction of most of us in the family? We were peed off, to be honest. We were very, very peed off because we were thinking that, okay, when will we ever get the chance to sit down and prepare a wedding properly like everybody else? Every time we seem to have a wedding within our own immediate family, it's always been at a short notice. But if you look at all the rest of our family members, like our cousins and our second cousins and first cousins and everybody else, they've all had these lavish weddings that they have had at least a year or two to prepare. But we have never ever had the luxury to prepare for a wedding properly. When my sister got married, it was within a week. Yes, it was also a very similar situation where within a week everything happened. And that was also because it was within the family. So we also, again, ended up doing a very simple affair, a very intimate affair. And so, after almost 30 years, there's a wedding in our family, and that is my sister's son. Actually, this wedding was my sister's son's wedding, and we were thinking that, okay, we are not going to do that again. We're not going to have these short emergency weddings. We are going to sit down, prepare properly, take a year or two, get everything ready. But no, as I said, the girl's family wanted it done while they were getting their son married. So as I said in the beginning, we were pretty peed off. And also, when you have a wedding to prepare at a short notice, you have to be able to make sure that everything is running smoothly, everything is fine, that all the guests are able to, because that's one of the biggest problems, especially when most of your family is abroad, and at least half of our family is abroad. Luckily, some members had already come to Pakistan, you know, and so for them it was a good sudden unexpected opportunity, but they were already here, so that was good for us. But again, the bulk of our family were still abroad. Also, as I said, it's wedding season, which means there were weddings going on in many other people's homes, not within the family, thankfully. Not a single wedding within the family, thankfully. Oh, actually, no, there is another wedding within the family that is literally in 4 days, but that is in England, as I said. Half of my family are abroad. So the ones who were abroad, they're preparing for that wedding that is to occur in 4 days. And the rest of us here now, we had to prepare for this wedding. And as I said, we had literally a month, less than a month, actually, not even a month, less than a month, half a month, you can say, because on the 20th of November, we were given notice that, oh, we have to prepare for a wedding. Yes. So on the 20th of November, we were given notice to prepare for a wedding. And one of the good things about being from the boys' family is that you really don't have to do much. All you have to do is the walima, thankfully. So we had to put all our efforts on getting a venue for the walima. And as you know, as I said, it's wedding season. You would be lucky to get the venue of your choice and at the time of your choice and at the date of your choice. We got it a day earlier than we were planning. We were planning for the 14th, but we got it on the 13th. That for us was a bit doable anyway. But the fact that we got an amazing venue, one of the best venues, one of the best locations, and we're also lucky that we have loads of venues near our place. Well, near in the sense, a few kilometers, some 15 kilometers, some 10 kilometers, some 30 kilometers, but I mean, all within our side of the. So, this was one of the nearest locations. Not only was it one of the nearest, it is one of the grandest locations in the sense that it has a huge repute. It's one of the newer locations as well, as in they newly built it all. The architecture, the space, the decoration, the interior designing was magnificent, to say the least. So the fact that we got that, and again, it's all my nephew's efforts, really. As in the groom's brother, the groom's older brother. It's all his efforts that he and his best friends. Again, kudos to his best friends. I think no matter how many duas and blessings we give to the three friends, they're childhood friends, and they've been together since KG, and they, mashallah, have been the best of friends, and they've always been there for these boys every time, regardless. And they were there again. All three of them were there at every step. The one step at which they weren't was when my nephew had to go and choose the wedding dress, the sherwani, for his brother, for the groom. Okay, so that's where things did go wrong. Yes, not with the quality. The quality of the fabric was amazing. Everything was amazing, except that the size went a bit haywire. And that again, everybody ended up blaming the groom, because the last time they had sized him up for the dressing, they went to that size. And how were they to know that he would be expanding within a week? So yeah, I mean, as in he increased in weight within that short span of time. So he was peed off about his clothes, but thankfully the sherwani itself was a good fit. So it was just the shalwar kameez on the inside that had been slightly ill-fitting, but we had to make do with it because we had to travel out of the city, and only then could we have taken the clothes with us, and only then could he have tried it because he was already out of the city. And so we could have tried it there. So that was probably the only mishap that we had throughout. Otherwise, I think everything went really, really fine, considering. And then, as I said, before that, we actually had on the 20th of November is when we found out that, okay, there's a wedding that needs to be handled. And on the 6th, my parents and the groom's family, the parents, as in his, family, they went and did the nikah very simply in a mosque. There were no celebrations or anything. Although I dare say the girl's family and the girl, they did whatever it is that they wanted to do at their end. Although we kept on and on saying that there will be no rasam, there will be no rites, there will be no rituals, there will be no such things, because we're doing an Islamic wedding and it's going to be just that. But, well, the girl did fulfill all her desires, let's say it. And so, yeah, she did whatever it is she wanted to do. Nobody stopped her. But we didn't do anything. And I mean, not as in we didn't do any rituals and this and that, but we were obliged to do one or two rituals again for them, which, to be very honest, we were not exactly thrilled about, because, as I said, when you keep telling somebody no rituals, no rituals, no rites, no rituals, we want to keep it simple and Islamic. And then they still go ahead and say, oh, well, let's just do one ritual, let's just do another ritual. So you kind of get a bit, thrown off. But anyway, that also went smoothly, I guess. Now, the point is, after the nikah, which, as I said, was basically a simple affair, after the nikah, now we had literally less than 2 weeks. Actually, yeah, we had literally less than, we had 12, no, wait, hold on. Yeah, we had literally 6 days. Yeah, so I was right to say we had literally 6 days after the nikah now to ensure that everything is put together. To, so the after the nikah, after 1 week was the barat. Again, we had to travel to the other city for the whole barat thing, and again, family. I mean, our family members, our aunts and uncles, they traveled to again. Luckily, many of them had family over there. Some of their own immediate families were there, so they stayed there, and then obviously their families were also invited. So we also again kept that as simple as we could, in the sense that we were very limited in number. Again, when you have a short notice wedding, you can't expect everybody to join you, especially when it's out of the city, you know, when it's a 6 to 8 hour drive, then you do not want people to be disturbed at a short notice that they have to travel all the way there and then again at their own convenience, because you yourself are going out of your own city and you do not, I mean, you can only accommodate maybe just a handful of your relatives wherever it is that you are, but you cannot accommodate everyone. So that was also, another thing that was sort of pinching us a bit, and we were like, okay, but again, so that's why we just cut down to only immediate relatives. We kept our numbers very small. We had our relatives and our most closest, oldest friends with us who could make it there. And we did the Bharat because we also did not want to add any burden onto the girl, especially considering again that it wasn't just her wedding. Hers and her brother's weddings were, being held together. So they also, to be honest, did their best, and they also, considering, everything, I think they pulled everything off very well. And then we stayed a night, and then a tragedy had occurred at the other party's place. So that was very sad because on one side you have this festivity going on of a wedding, and then the very next day a tragedy occurs where there's a death in the family. And so, you're at that point where you don't know whether what to do, because you don't know if to rejoice with the newlyweds or to mourn for the dead. So it was a bit saddening. Everybody was a bit sad, and then after that we left, came back to our own city. Here again, once again, we were like, making sure that everything is fine. So we and then so basically within 2 weeks, within literally 2 weeks, we made the cards. Then we made we sent all those cards to everybody. We wanted a very small intimate affair, but nowadays there's this thing where you cannot have less than a certain number of guests when you are booking venues for weddings. So we decided to expand the list a little more. And then, as I said, within 2 weeks, we got the Valima dress, because then the groom came back after the Bharat. He came a day or two later, and then he got his Valima dress sorted out. The girl had already had obviously her Valima dress sorted out and everything, but she was waiting for it to be delivered. And then so that was to be delivered at our place. So she got her dress, he got his dress, everything got fixed and everything sorted. The venue was sorted, everything was sorted, guests were sorted, and now here's the part. That is, you see, when you have only 2 weeks, because it's basically this, okay, it's basically 2 weeks in which you have to get everything ready. You have to get the offers, the wedding offers. You have to get the favors. Sorry, look, something's really wrong with me. Yeah, you have to get the wedding favors ready. You have to get the venue ready. You have to get the clothes ready. You have to get this ready. You have to get that ready. And then already, you know, I mean, everything. So as I said, because we're not taking a single thing from the girl, so providing everything to the girl, that was our whole agenda. And so getting all of that done in less than a month, you can imagine. And yet, thankfully, alhamdulillah, everything went smoothly. And as I said, here's the best part, is that when you throw together a wedding at a short notice, then when you see how your guests participate, when you see how your relatives come together and they participate, when you see your friends who literally are sitting in America, or and they're getting their flights rescheduled so that they should make it for the wedding, when you see your friends who are not well,
who are probably even, and when you see friends who have had deaths in their families, very recent deaths, and you see all of them still make that effort to come over and participate in the wedding and to get involved in the wedding and to be there for you, then I think that is a huge honor. Actually, the one thing that I have always noticed in Pakistani weddings, to be very honest, which is why I do not attend weddings, is that, people, yes, you do come, you do stand there, you greet everybody very nicely, you let them sit down, and then after that you get so involved and so busy with your own stuff and your own relatives and the bride and the groom and this and that. And walima is actually a very good occasion because that's when you're basically supposed to have been done with everything and now it's the reception. That is when the bride and the groom and the family and everybody should be better hosts, and they should take care of everybody, and they should be there, they should sit down, give time to everybody. That is my belief. I did that when my sister got married, and I remember how every single person said that this was the best wedding they had ever attended, despite the fact that for us it wasn't. But for the guests, my sister's wedding was the best wedding they said they had ever attended. Why? Because, first of all, we invited a limited number of guests. Second, we made everybody participate, as in we allowed everybody to participate. We introduced everybody to each other properly. We made everybody, get together, as in, everybody was now chatting with everybody. Everybody was, those who wanted to dance, the girls, little girls who were dance, because it was at home. That wedding was at home, so it was a very private and intimate affair. So the girls who wanted to dance could dance. The boys who wanted to dance could dance. Those who wanted to take who wanted to take photos, they took photos. It was a very, very hugely intimate affair. So everybody enjoyed it because nobody was bored, you know. And that is what I tried to continue here. So when again we had this Varima going on, here again, I and my nephew, both of us, we made sure that we made rounds. We met every single guest. We gave them time. We went to them. We thanked them for coming. We asked them if everything was fine. We tried to, I tried to even make certain people who knew each other find each other and sit with each other so that nobody could get bored. So, this is how everything was done. My parents also, my mother, she was always on the move, taking care of her friends, taking care. And the good part about my mother's brothers and sisters was that they took care of the whole family side of things, as in they took care of all the other family members, the cousins and this and that. And so there was no problem there. When it came to the friends, we took care of all of them. We took care of our, and because, as I said, when somebody has actually thrown, because to me that is how I see it, when you put together a short notice and you send cards to people with less than a month's notice, you know they could very well say, what the frack is this? What is this? What is this shoddy business? And why are we going? We're not going. But believe me, the fact that people threw everything and came, and especially those who traveled to the other city with us or for us or before us even, to join us there, it is an honor. It is an honor, and you must give them that honor. You must. If somebody has come to the wedding, don't take it for granted that they've come to the wedding of your family members or whatever. Because, as I said, I've noticed that weddings in Pakistan are these huge grand affairs, and then everybody's sitting there bored out of their wits, except those who know each other and other. So, that's why I don't go to weddings. And I guess that's why people always then feel that. So once again, people kept on feeling that, oh, this was amazing. We had an amazing time. We all, because so many of them knew each other. Again, we called people who also knew, half the people knew each other. So that was an amazing part as well. Those who didn't, we introduced them. Those who, and somebody found somebody there who they were very close to or who they were very comfortable with. We were also taking rounds because, as I said, that is the least you can do to honor your guests, because they have honored you by joining the wedding, by participating, by getting involved, by coming, by making time. Believe me, nowadays especially, it's not easy to make time. Have you looked at the traffic? Have you looked at the fog. Have you looked at, do you know at least three, at least two of our guests almost had an accident on the way, and we ourselves, actually, we also got a nail in the tire, which my dad then just quietly drove on without letting us know. And it was only the next maybe 2 to 3 days later that my dad told us that actually on our way there to the venue, this happened. And then again, so thankful to my nephew's friends, one of them, that my dad entrusted him to take care of it, and he fixed, he changed the tire. He got the tire changed. So God bless him for that. But I mean, so there were now at least three cases that we knew of where we literally had accidents. My cousin had an accident on the way, but thankfully, nothing went wrong. It was all safe and sound. It was just a minor accident. Another friend of mine who, because she literally forgot the date, she's not just a friend, she's literally our family. When we were abroad, we lived together, as in, we lived in the same country together. We were closest to friends. We were more than friends. We were families. And so when we came to Pakistan, and then before us, I think they came to Pakistan. And then when we reconnected again, so it was as if, yeah, no, we cannot do anything without each other. We have to have each other involved in everything. And so she had actually mistaken the date because, as I said, initially it was always, everybody would expect it to be on a Sunday. That is what we wanted. We wanted it to be on the 14th, on a Sunday, but we got it on a Saturday. We're lucky we got it on a Saturday, to be honest, because, as I said, it's wedding season, and to get a hall at such a short notice in less than 2 weeks or less than a month, yeah, we were very lucky, mashallah. So she had it in her mind that it was a Sunday. And then some of our other friends, who are the closest to us, just like her, they called and they're like, "Where are you at?" And she's like, "Oh, it's tomorrow." And they're like, "It's not tomorrow, it's going on right now." And she literally threw everything and dashed. And she also almost had an accident on the way. And she just dashed and she joined us. Although she was late, it doesn't matter. So the fact that people just made all that effort, you know, and gave us all that honor to join us, I think that was something that we appreciated, and we did our best to show our appreciation. The fact that everybody left smiling, everybody was enjoying, nobody was bored. It was literally like a party, and that was the best part. And we were so thankful that everything went so smoothly. So you see, we didn't have to go through all those rites and rituals. We didn't have to go through all those huge, heavy preparations. You know, we were very lucky, alhamdulillah, that we got the right venue, the ideal location, the ideal venue at the ideal place and at the ideal time, near almost the ideal date and time. And these are the things that can go wrong, actually, which is why actually you always prepare for a wedding way before. When you have to look for a venue, especially, then the reason why you prepare for a wedding way before is because venues get booked in advance, obviously, months before at least. So that is the only worry that you literally have when preparing a short notice wedding. But when you really do it the pragmatic way, and when you do it the simple way, and when you just look at what matters, and you remove all the extra things out of it, then life gets simpler. Life gets simpler, things become smoother. What I'm trying to say is you don't have to go through all that, those, newfangled trends. We didn't do any of those trends. And yet we had the most successful walima or wedding, because we, mashallah, God helped us through that. Even when we were out of the city, we had a place where we could accommodate some of our closest relatives, despite the fact that we couldn't, we could not invite many people because we knew we couldn't accommodate them. So we only invited as many as we knew that they could accommodate themselves and that we could accommodate some. The fact that, it was an intimate affair made everybody feel involved, participated. The fact that when we did the wedding also on our side, we kept things simple. The fact that when we did the walima, We didn't do any high. We just went for quiet sophistication. That's it. Because we didn't want anything to be loud and this and that. A walima is not supposed to be loud, by the way. Walimas are supposed to be elegant, sophisticated affairs, you know. And that is what we ended up with. So we didn't do any shoo sha poo pa, in other words, okay? We didn't go for all that hi-fi faluting things. We didn't go for those trendy things. We did not. The girl also was, you know, very down to earth. She did not like to overspend any money. She did not want to waste so much money on something that she knew would just last a few days. Similarly, we also are of the kind of we are the kind of people that we are of that thought that we do not believe in wasting money in things that are going to last you an hour or a few days. Much rather to put all that money where it's needed, and that is where we put the money. We put the money where it was needed, where the bride and the groom could, you know. So we put the money in the furnishing. We put the money in their household, you know. So because at the end that is what matters. What matters is that they should have a place to live, and they should be able to live comfortably. That is what people earn money for, you know. People earn money in order to have a place, a roof above their heads. Also, again, keeping in sync with Islamic tradition, we are not going for a joint family system. They are independent, they're on their own. As I said, that is where we put all the money. We put all the money towards that end, that they should live their own independent lives. And now nobody can say that, oh, you know, they're living with a joint family system, so this happened, that happened. Nobody can blame at least our side of the family for anything, you know. So, yeah, because in Islam, joint family system is haram. I don't care how you like to decorate it and how you like to make it sound, advantageous. But if in Islam it is declared haram, it is declared haram for a reason. And you can see the reasons. So, again, if you're going to outweigh Islam with your culture and and give precedence to your culture over your religion, then get ready to face the consequences, is all I can say. So, yeah, we kept things simple. We did not even have a choice but to keep things simple. And I'm talking about rites and rituals again. The reason why, because we didn't have time. And as I said, the girl actually, her family, they did all the rites and rituals they wanted to at their end. Nobody stopped them. But we didn't join in any of those rites and rituals. Let's put it this way. Yeah, we didn't go and have a bachelor party, or we didn't go and have what is it? Your mendi mayo, and we didn't have that. We didn't have your tel mendi mayo uptan yevo. We didn't. The straight nikah, and then after that, after a week, a barat, and then after that, coming back to our own city, after 4 to 5 days, the walima. Yeah, we actually kept the walima about almost a week after the barat. Actually, a week, a whole week after the barat. Yeah, Saturday to Saturday, you can put it that way. So there was a week's time span between the barat and the walima as well. So that actually also worked to our advantage. So, I mean, these are the tips I can literally give, is that having done two such kind of intimate weddings in our family, and having seen all the lavishly over the top exaggerated affairs that have been done in our family, as in our cousins and second cousins that we've seen, they've had lavish preparations, over the top preparations, dance choreography going on, and they've these heavy decorations over the top, wedding attires, and or I mean, not wedding attires. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say, right? All these heavy duty over the top weddings. But at the end of the day, nothing beats simple elegance. And all your rites and all your rituals can just add to your headaches, and you can do without them. You can literally do without them, because in Islam there is no such thing as, in Islam everything is pragmatic. If you can afford it, if you want to do it. Okay? If you do not have the time, or if you find it cumbersome or tedious, or if you do not want to do it and you do not like it and you cannot be engaged with it, don't do it.
It's as simple as that. But in Islam itself, there is nothing. There is no right. There are no rights. There are no rituals. In Islam, you register your marriage and then you do a walima, and that's it. So, and I think that it's it for a reason, because as I said, Islam is all about making things easy and simple for everybody. It's not about, for example, as I said, one of the worst things that happened with these people who restarted the whole Jahez tradition in the cities, you know, they made those people who came to the cities from the villages looking for work and settling down in the cities start doing the same thing. So, as I said, in the villages before, nobody ever asked for a dowry from the girl's family, and the girl's family never gave a dowry. It was understood that it's all the man's responsibility. But coming to the city and seeing how people in the city had restarted this whole dirty pagan culture of dowry, this now put it into their heads that, oh, we need to start this too. And the problem is that in their case, as I said, they can't even afford it. So they look to us to fulfill all those needs when it's actually the husband's duty to fulfill those needs. Why are you getting married if you cannot afford a wife? Again, that's another thing I've noticed, that in our country, I've noticed how for the longest time, these Maulvis and Maulanas and scholars have been saying, oh, you just get married and everything will be fine. No, you can't say that, because in Islam, you're not allowed to get married until you're not on your own 2 feet. Until and unless you're not established. You have to be established. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. You have to earn your own living. You have to be able to provide your wife with a house of her own, not a joint family house. No, that's haram. You have to provide her with her own house. You have to provide her with her daily necessities. And then only can you get married. Otherwise, as the Prophet said, if you cannot afford it, then fast and involve yourselves in other activities. That is what the Prophet said. So I hope that I have managed to make things a little bit clear as to why I do think that, yes, as I said, having 2 intimate marriage affairs within my own immediate family, within my own house, I can tell you that at the end of the day, they are in many ways the best. You sort of throw away all the random unnecessary rites and rituals. You throw away all the the flimsy flamsy thingies. You throw away all the unnecessary details, and you get down to the brass tacks. And when you do them properly, when you do the brass tacks properly, you're sorted. I like it that girls nowadays have become more and more pragmatic about choosing their clothes. I like the fact that I've seen so many vloggers talk about how they would rather rent their dresses or wear their mother's dresses. I think I really like that, and I myself am always of that view that I would also much rather use my mother's dress. Especially when you look at the fabric nowadays, the quality of the fabric versus the money that you need to pay, it's not worth it. There was a time when it was still worth it, to be very honest. It was still worth it, to spend all that money and make the dress of your dreams. You have this amazing fabric, everything is, highest quality. You have real stones, that those who wanted to use gemstones. You had real golden and silver thread, zari and all that. Yeah, but now it's not the same. Now the fabrics are not the same. Have you seen velvet nowadays? That is not your pure chenille velvet. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. Because my mother has a huge collection of velvet suits, because in those times, first of all, velvet wasn't expensive and it was very easily found. Why the hell has velvet suddenly become so rare and extinct that now you're having these weird ass Korean velvets and you have these French velvets? Oh, actually, French velvet is supposed to be good. But I mean, you have all these pseudo velvets, let's put it this way. You have these pseudo velvets and they're transparent. That's the worst part. Why are we having sheer clothing in winter, by the way? Why? You need thick clothing in winter. You want something under which you do not want to layer more than you already are layering up, for crying out loud. And since when did velvet become transparent or sheer? I don't even get that, to be honest. So yeah, girls have become so pragmatic now. They're like, why should we waste lakhs and lakhs of rupees on our clothes when we can easily just either alter our mother's clothes, which are of
the most amazing quality ever, and at least it will be put to use again, because otherwise our mothers have also wasted so much money on their clothes. Or we can just rent clothes. And I think that is the most amazing thing that I've seen, that young girls are so much more practical now. Because why not save all that money and put it to use in other ways? Why not put that money in your account or invest that money somewhere else, and at least get some sort of a financial, you have some sort of a financial nest, a nest egg, let's put it that way, for a rainy day. So yes, again, why buy furniture for your girls and why buy bedroom sets and this and that for your girls? Why? Are you crazy? Much rather put a certain amount of money into their personal account, so that god forbid they might suddenly need emergency cash, or they might want to or maybe they might suddenly have an investment in mind. They don't have to look at anybody's faces. They have their own money in their own account that they can put their hands on. And never, ever, ever withdraw from hak meher, please. This is not even liked in Islam, it's discouraged. A girl must always have her hak meher, even if it is just something small and cheap, it doesn't matter. It is for the girl and the boy to choose the hak meher, but that hak meher, once chosen, has to be given. And the girl should not revoke it, because that is her security. That is her security. Without that, your marriage contract is not complete. So I'm glad to see that girls are more and more careful, more and more pragmatic, more and more cautious. But you still have you still have those girls who are listening to their parents, or listening to the boys, or listening to the boys' parents, and they end up making foolhardy decisions. And there are still girls who are looking at trends and they want to go all out, and then they literally break the bank. They literally break the bank of their parents. You do realize that there are two things that you should never do on a loan. You shouldn't get married on a loan. You shouldn't go for Hajj and Umrah on a loan. Hell, Hajj and Umrah on a loan is not even accepted, by the way. So I'm sorry to say, but all those of you who made your parents go on Hajj and Umrah using your credit cards, yeah, not accepted. I've said this before. I've talked about that in another podcast in detail. So yeah, it's not accepted. It's not allowed. That's invalid. It's not even valid. So weddings and pilgrimages, you should stick to your own means. Never do them on loan. Okay? Keep your budget pragmatic. Keep things simple. And you can pull off the best ever wedding without wasting so much money, which is essential in today's economic conditions, as you can see, where even our wages are, back to the rates of 2015, as per a survey of a certain person who, I'm sorry, whose name I've forgotten, but I'm sure he's pretty much already known, because I think he laid it all out on Twitter as well, maybe. And some people also vlogged about it. But I mean, yeah, ask people like us who are already struggling. We will tell you. You don't need any expert to tell you. We will tell you. In fact, I would go so far as to say, and this is something I have said many times, that our wages are still from 2013. I don't know how he made 2015. He's got better, he must have had better graphs to go through, and he went through all his research, I'm sure. But when I look at myself, or when I look at my expenditure versus what I'm earning, then I would say that I'm not earning more than what I was earning 17 years ago, to be honest. So when I look at myself and I see that my pay whatever it is that I'm earning, even as an independent, self-employed person, if my earnings have not exceeded my earnings of 2009 to 2014, sorry, let's put it this way, to 2014, then I'm sorry, what am I supposed to be doing here? So yeah, just keep that in mind. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.